back. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so this is a donation from a gentleman called Andrew Watson, who is, I think he was the founder of it, Facebook group called the British Bourbon Society. And if you like bourbon and you're on Facebook and you're not a member of the British Bourbon Society group, join it, because it's relatively new. They've just hit 150 members, so it's still quite small scale. Really good bunch of people, because it's not just guys. Also, I mean, at the moment it seems a little bit London centric, so if you're near London, they do quite a lot of get-togethers. They've got a couple of links with some bars, so it would be nice to get a bit more kind of from the rest of the country to do some get-togethers up here as well. But really nice set of people, really friendly, really interested. We've swapped some samples between each other and things like that, and it's a fantastic little group. It's really, really good, and you don't have to be British either to be a member of it. It would actually be really good if we had people from worldwide. Maybe he might have to change the name and do, the Worldwide Bourbon Society or something like that. But it's really interesting. People that a good combination of people that know their bourbons and know their histories and things like that, and have been quite helpful to me in terms of getting a bit of research. And then other people that don't really know an awful lot about it and want to know more. And we've been sending examples to each other, and try this and try that, and what do you think of this, and managed to find this for that price. And Marks and Spencer's are selling Elijah Craig 12-year-old for $26.99. Get yourself there quick before they sell out, and that sort of thing. So Andrew very kindly sent me some samples down, of which he sent. Now I said to, and I've made it the rules, was it's one from each distillery and or brand. Because as we know in America, there are lots of brands and nowhere near as many distilleries. And if I just did actual distilleries, it would be very hard for me to do the standard version. And also, I probably wouldn't have enough to hit 366. So he said, I'm going to send you Willett 8-year-old rye, and I'm going to send you Willett XCF. I was like, right, well, one, I don't know what the XCF is. I have no idea what that means. And two, I just want one from each one. He was like, no, I'm sending you two because you need to try both of them. Fine, all right. Okay, so I have both of them here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Willett 8-year-old rye as my actual proper tasting, but having done some reading on the XCF, I'm going to try a little bit of this as a little bonus, but I'm not going to do a full shot. I'm literally just going to do a little bit in my... I found another Glencairn glass, so I've got two of them. So if I drop one, it's not a disaster. So I'm going to try a little bit of the XCF once I've done this other one. So Willett is a family-owned distillery which is on the outskirts of Bardstown, Kentucky. And the company themselves are also known as Kentucky Bourbon Distillers, or KBD. Now, the distillery itself was created in 1935 by a father and son team of Lambert and Thompson Willett. Now, Lambert's father, so Thompson's grandfather, was a guy called John David Willett, who was also a master distiller who co-owned another distillery that was Willett something more, I can't remember what the name is. But Thompson and Lambert basically set up the Willett distillery on their own, and it's still family owned now. It's actually owned by the family has changed name from the Willett to the Kulsveen after Thompson's daughter Martha married a guy called Evan, but it's spelled even, but it's pronounced Evan Kulsveen, who was a guy from Norway. So the family has become the Kulsveens. So in the she married him in 1972. In the 70s, they decided to, in their infinite wisdom, energy crisis in the US of the 1970s. Prices were sky high. Everybody was looking for alternative energy sources. And they decided to make ethanol in order to produce, it was like a gasoline version called gasanol, I think it was, or something like that. It was basically an alternative energy source. They're like, right, we're not going to make whiskey, we're going to make ethanol to go towards this fuel source, which will make us loads of money. Oil price went down, everybody was drinking petrol, driving with petrol again, and they had nothing. They had very little whiskey, and they were kind of screwed because they took a punt on a risk and it failed miserably. So in the early 80s, the distillery shut down, and it was about the mid to late 70s when the Evan Kulsveen kind of like bought the distillery from the Willett family, even though he was part of them. He basically went, right, I'm taking it over because we need to do something about this. So he used the existing stock that they still had to release bottlings and get an income, but ultimately they got to the point where they had to source stock from elsewhere. So they became an independent bottler. So there was a Willett's range, but they also had Noah's Mill, Noah's Mill and Rowan's Creek, also from Willett's, and a few other brands as well, where they were sourcing it from other distilleries. Heaven Hill's only up the road, so it's quite possibly quite a lot from there, in order to keep going the name and the brand and actually keep the company operating. So Willett became Kentucky Bourbon Distillers because it wasn't a Willett distillery, it was Kentucky Bourbon Distillers who owned the Noah's Mill distillery, the Rowan's Creek distillery, I think Old Bardston was another one. Make sure I've got the right one. Yes, well, there you go. So the distillery actually reopened in 2012, so they are now making their own whiskies, but because of the time it takes to mature and bottle and everything like that, we are still not at the stage where Willett's releases are their own. So Andrew tells me that these that he sent me are the sourced versions. The general consensus seems to be that the ryes at least are from MGP in Indiana. It's not like confirmed, but everybody's saying yeah, it's from MGP. So what I have here is the 8-year-old, 58.3. Your pen's too thick, Andrew, mate. I can't read that. It's 58 point something. I think it's 58.3%. You're looking at about $90 to $100 for this, and I couldn't find it in the UK, anywhere in the UK at all. Now they do a pot still bourbon, which is in a really, really fancy. This is what the 8-year-old rye bottle looks like. Fairly plain, nothing particularly fantastic. But they do a pot still bourbon, and this is what the bottle looks like. And I've seen it in the flesh, and it looks incredible. I'd love to know how much the bottle itself costs compared, like the split of how much the bottle is to the bourbon inside in the actual price that you pay, because it's a really fancy bottle. Nothing I could ever bring home from America because I wouldn't know how to pack it. The neck would snap off or something like that. So this appears to be an 8-year-old rye, probably from MGP but bottled under Willett's label. It's likely that they are maturing it at Willett and then bottling it there as well. So if it is from MGP, it seems like it's 95% rye, 5% barley, no corn in it whatsoever. 58.3% or 58.6, whatever he says on the label. Everywhere I'm reading saying 58.3. So barrel proof, pretty strong stuff. Quite a dark colour as well. Nice dark, rich colour to it. So I've got some water ready just in case, and we shall see how this goes. Ooh, quite aniseedy. Big style aniseed. Licorice, aniseed, star anise, that sort of thing. Yeah, really, really kind of, yeah, that's pretty much all I'm getting. Not much alcoholic burn on my nose either. Dare I say it, ouzo, not as bad as ouzo, but ouzo has that aniseedy, alcohol and aniseed on ouzo, and it's got a touch of that, but this is a lot better because ouzo's freaking horrible. But this has a touch of that. The best I could, if you smell ouzo, that's as close I can describe as to what this is smelling like. Like ouzo and dark fruits, and there's a little bit of like a cough syrupiness to it as well. Not unpleasant though. It's a really distinctive note. Whoa. Spicy bits up, but aniseed keeps going. Wow. Yeah, aniseed keeps going through the palate as well. Oh, it reminds me of a sweet, and I can't think what. Blackjacks. Reminds me of blackjacks. It's got that juiciness of a blackjack. Now the penny sweets, you get fruit salads and blackjacks. Blackjacks were the obviously black ones, but like really intense aniseedy. I wasn't so much of a fan of them. I always preferred the fruit salads. But if you ate a fruit salad and a blackjack together at the same time, that was something special. And there's a little element of that because of the sweetness that you get underlying the aniseed. It's really spicy initially, very prickly, effervescent to start with, and that's probably the high alcohol percentage. But then this wave of aniseed comes through, really prominent, and cherry, really concentrated dark cherries, almost like a black cherry jam with licorice. I'm going to add some water. It doesn't really need it, to be perfectly honest, even at like 58%. Doesn't need it that much, to be perfectly honest, but I'm going to just see if any water just loosens it out a little bit and see if we can get something else. Because at the moment, and to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of aniseed, star anise. Licorice I don't mind, but I can take it or leave it, to be honest, but this works really, really well. Yeah, now it's becoming a bit more classically rye. Fruit's coming through, but there's still that aniseed there. It's just mellowed out a bit more, it's becoming more fruity. It's still black cherry jam, that sort of feel to it. It's become more nutty. Hazelnuts and Brazil nuts coming through now. Aniseed's not way down. I think I've got just about the right amount of water in it as well, because it's taken all that fire out. And it's become quite different. Not quite liqueur-y, but there is a sweeter element that's just come through. It's become more like a compote now. More sugar solutions coming through. Aniseed's almost disappeared. It's still there, but it's right in the background. So it's less blackjacks, not quite fruit salads, but it's less of that and more of cherry and toffee, but like a hard toffee, not the really sweet creamy caramels that you can get in some like dark chocolate caramels where it like melts in your mouth. This is more like a hard toffee. What an interesting beast. Wasn't expecting that at all. And the water has completely turned it. I'll be honest, I think I prefer it without the water, because that aniseed element was fantastic. This is, adding the water has just made it less individual. It's just made it not ordinary, but it's just kind of lost the character that made it quite so distinct. Good though, really good. Pricey to be perfectly honest, but very, very good. Right, so speaking of individual character, he's also sent me this XCF. Now XCF stands for Exploratory Cask Finish, which sounds like it's basically them arsing about. So, I think this is the first one. This is version 1.0, so by the sounds of it, they're going to be doing other ones as well. 51.7%. I couldn't actually find a bottle of what it looked like, so I'm going to put my finger up now and hopefully there'll be a picture of the bottle here. It's a 7-year-old rye, which again, everybody basically says yes, it's from MGP. But what they've then done is they've finished it off in casks that have previously held Curacao. Now you might have heard of blue Curacao, which is a liqueur. And Curacao is actually, it's a spirit that's made, it's a liqueur that's made from the dried peel of a fruit called Lahara, which is essentially an orange. It's like a hybrid of an orange from Valencia that's grown on the island of Curacao, which is a little island in the Caribbean. Now, because the casks have come from France, there's quite a strong indication that this is actually casks that have previously been used to make Grand Marnier, which is the orange liqueur that's French, and then has had this whiskey thrown into it to finish it off. I'm not sure how long it's been in cask. I'm going to guess maybe 6 months. Again, this seems to be 95% rye, 5% barley. Now, I couldn't actually find this in the US on the price site that I look at normally. It did bring up 2 places in the UK that were selling it at 200 quid a bottle. So I'm really quite lucky to have this. I do thank you, Andrew. So I'm only gonna put a little bit in, because technically this doesn't count as a dram. This isn't, this is more just the fact that Andrew said you've got to try it, and it sounds really interesting. So I thought I'd do it for you people, guys and girls that are watching it, just to give you some indication of what it's like, because I had the Bonnie Rose the other day, which was the orange peel flavoured Tennessee white whiskey, which on the nose was actually really, really nice on the nose, and then on the palate was really disappointing. Not a lot to it. I haven't tried it out of the freezer yet. I haven't even put it in the freezer, but I think that's my next step. So I'll be really intrigued to see what this is like. Now there is orange peel on it, but it's not pronounced, it's not obvious, and this is dried orange peel. So it's not overly orangey, it's not overly sweet, it's there in the background. Bonnie Rose was full on orange liqueur, Cointreau, in your face. That was it, that was all there was. It was orange, nothing else. Whereas this is whiskey, rye whiskey, with orange peel in the background over there. There's some orange peel in the room, but it's not full on. But it's there, and it's just enough to make it a little bit interesting. Coming through a little bit more now. It's still not massively pronounced, but it's almost like now that I've got it, I'm picking it up more. Very, very interesting. Ooh. Interesting, on the palate it's more pronounced than it is on the nose. The orange comes through more, but it's a really good balance. It's not liqueur-y, it's not sickly sweet. I think it will put some people off, but it does work really well because it's a bit more of a bitter orange. And it's not massively bitter, it's not a sweet orange flavour, it's slightly more of a bitter. It's more orange peel than orange juice. That was the problem with the Bonnie Rose, was the nose was really sweet Cointreau orange liqueur, which I love, don't really want that in a whiskey. And then on the palate it just didn't work whatsoever. This is more bitter orange, so you tend to use orange peel with your whiskey cocktails, and it's that bitterness that works really well with whiskey, and that works fantastically well. Doesn't need water, because the fire of the alcohol, 51.7, the fire actually works really well with the orange peel. It counterbalances it brilliantly. It's unusual, but well worth trying. It's a really good rye whiskey. It's slightly hotter, slightly less well balanced than the 8-year-old. Even though this is a 7, they've clearly not used as good a whiskey. But that allows, they've obviously gone, well, that one's not quite as good. We won't bother doing another year on it and making our 8-year-old rye. We'll do it with the casks and see whether that brings any more out of it. And I think it does. Really interesting. And actually really, really good. Bonnie Rose, no, didn't work whatsoever. This works. This is a really good balance. Whiskey and orange is a good combination generally, and whiskey and orange peel and cocktails and everything like that, but this, they've got the balance just bang on. It's not sweet, it's not like a liqueur, it has enough whiskey characteristics, but it has this orange peel element that really just makes it interesting, different, unusual, without ruining the whiskey. That's great stuff. 200 quid a bottle though. Might have to pass on that. But to try it, fantastic stuff. Really, really good stuff. Yes, Andrew, thank you very much for that. Do try and get hold of that if you can. It's very, very interesting. And right, I'm nearly at the end of my Americans, unfortunately. I think I've got one more left. I've got a couple coming in the post, but I might have to do the one and then do something else and then come back to it, just to finish it off. But yeah, great stuff. Andrew, thank you for that. And I shall see you at the next one. Cheers.